My first video on this channel featured a visit to the Classic Rock Show in Liverpool, which was uploaded on the 14th of February 2020, which is what started it all off. Good morning everybody, my name's Kev Berry. I've seen this production many times, which has been on tour at the beginning of each year now for over a decade. It is a production that I as a musician always inspires me. Like many of its fans, I love the iconic setlist that never fails to impress. The sound and lighting are amazing, and the talent and skill of the artist is flawless in delivering note-for-note accuracy of each track performed. But for me personally, it is the overall experience that makes the Classic Rock Show very special, which is after all a celebration of great iconic music. But how is it all brought together? Well, Jesse Smith is one of the singers in the show who produces authentic vocals from Brian Johnson to Robert Plant. He is no stranger to the stage, who has performed lead vocals in Led Zeppelin Symphonic, and of course his own material on his debut album Songs from a Concrete Box. We welcome Jesse Smith. We are in Bradford, and this edition of Gigs and Guitars we are here with Jesse Smith from the Classic Rock Show. So how are you today, Jesse?
I'm okay, yeah. I'm a bit tired, you know, with 31 shows into the tour, I think. But yeah, I'm doing okay. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, you're looking well. That's the main thing.
Thank you.
So yes, there's 31 shows into the tour. We've got probably about another, is it 8 or 9 to go? Is it?
I think 8 to go. I think. Yeah.
Excellent.
8 or 9.
So how's the tour been going?
It's great. You know, the gigs are always fun. You know, I always say to people the gigs are kind of the fun bit. Obviously,
right?
You know, it's everything around that and the kind of ups and downs of being on the road and just trying to stay on top of your voice and your health and all that stuff. Being on the road, that's the struggle. But the gigs themselves have been going really, really well. The audiences have been great, and everyone's just having a good time. You know, it's such a privilege to play this music. You know, it's just my favourite type of music, my favourite songs growing up. So it's just a privilege to be able to do it every night. You know,
fantastic. So just going to pick up on one point there. You mentioned keeping basically your vocals maintained. How do you achieve that? What do you do?
It's hard. I mean, a lot of it is obviously prevention. You know, so a lot of it is having good enough technique in the first place to know when to pull back and when to not kill yourself vocally. But honestly, it's a really, really tough thing because we're on a tour bus, so by the nature of that, you know, I don't sleep particularly well on a tour bus, never have done. So you're kind of having broken sleep, which for a singer is the worst thing imaginable. Yeah. And then basically trying to keep on top of your vocal health in terms of hydration. I nebulize every day, which I can show you if you like in a bit, and steam and all these various different things to try and keep on top of my vocal health. Yeah. But sometimes you get ill. Like at the minute, you can hear I'm just a little bit bunged up. So, and then it makes the gig a bit harder, you know. But it's just it's tough. But it's just trying to get through it.
I suppose it's one of those things because the tour's obviously kicked off in like the new year, and from what I can see on sort of social media, and I do follow the Classic Rock Show because it is a great production. One thing I have picked up on is there's been a little bit of illness. Pete Thorne's had a bit of illness. Wayne Banks has had a bit. Sounds like you've had a bit. How do you sort of manage that? How do you keep out of the way of people when you're very sort of closely confined?
Can I be honest? You don't know the half of it. I mean, I can give you the showbiz answer, which is, we just manage and get through the show. But it's really hard. You know, it's really tough. You know, I won't go into detail, but I've been ill most of this tour with various different things. And, it is that old adage, isn't it? It's the show must go on, you know?
Yes.
And it's about, as a singer, it's a difficult one to explain because I'll go and do a show and sometimes it feels kind of effortless and it feels like I can just go and express myself and really think about the songs and just have fun and interact with the audience and make sure everybody has a great time. But other times that same show physically is 2 or 3 times as hard.
Right, with you.
To do the same thing, and people go, "You sounded great," and you want to go, "Oh, well, thanks, but it was really hard, and I want your sympathy," because as a singer, it's people only see the final thing, you know.
Yes.
They don't sort of feel how you, and it's not all woe is me, but I was actually having a chat about this to Ricardo yesterday. It's sort of every day is sort of a new kind of a new sort of mental stress or preparation, you know, or worry, just thinking, am I going to be able to do this?
Yes.
Because you care so much about the people, you know, coming to have a great time. You don't want to disappoint anybody.
That's right.
You know,
yeah.
so it's sort of it is tough, you know. It is tough.
So you've got, I suppose it's a bit like you're going out to do a top sporting event and you think, hang on a minute, I'm not really feeling top of my game here, but I've got to deliver on the night, and you feel you've got a bit of responsibility there, so therefore you're putting pressure upon yourself. But people are still enjoying it. Pete Thorne mentioned the other week, when you're having a bit of a down gig, you can rely on the back of the rest of the band, where you've got 7 other people there to basically cover all bases, if you will. And I quite like that. So it's obviously a big team approach to getting that production out there and everybody happy, and the audience in particular, but you've got to be happy as an artist as well. What I find is that artists like yourself, the hypercritical, I'm always hypercritical of what I'm doing, and the most of that isn't seen by people. You know, what they see is what you've said is the end product.
Yeah.
So what is your sort of regime for warming up and things, you know, and so what do you go through in terms of preparing?
So I'm quite a creature of habit really on tour, so I tend to wake up, depending on how much sleep I've had, I'll wake up around between 10 and 11 normally. My thing is I love brunch, so I'll go and find the best brunch place in town. Normally have eggs royale or something. Yeah. Or just a nice healthy breakfast. And then tend to drink a lot of water during the day just to kind of make sure I'm hydrated. Yeah. Obviously have a shower. I try not to do anything too stressful during the day. Sometimes if I'm feeling great, like at the minute, like I said, I've got a bit of a cold, but so I'm sort of just trying to rest as much as possible during the day. But if I'm feeling totally 100% healthy, I'll do a workout or something. Right. And then my routine in terms of vocally warming up normally starts about an hour before the show, which is different to a lot of singers. So Rudy, he'll get off the bus in the morning and start warming up. Right. Immediately, first thing. Yeah. He'll be going, all day. But whereas for me, I like to try and give my voice as much time as possible to rest. Even during sound check, which we do at around 4 p.m, I take it really easy. Right. And then I'll normally nebulize during the day, which is kind of a form of breathing in steam, but it's a more modern version basically. Yeah. I'll do that probably once or twice a day, and then so I'll nebulize. Sometimes I'll steam as well, but one of the two anyway. And then I'll probably do like a 15-20 minute warm up before, sort of while I'm getting dressed and stuff, and just try and get in the zone and start waking up my voice and see how it's feeling that day. Yeah. And I suppose it is. It's like you've got to look after it. You've got to warm it up. Do you do scales, breathing exercises, and things like that? Just depends. I do a lot of. I do some scales and stuff. It's more. Singers will know a lot of the exercises we do are stuff like sirens and which is like. Which is basically a way of sort of feeling how your range is feeling that day. Right. So it depends on it basically depends how you're feeling that day. Yeah. So your voice will feel very different from one day to the next. Yeah. So it's sort of getting to grips of like how easy things are feeling. Yeah. And how that might sort of put you in the mindset of like what you need to do on certain songs to get through the song that day. Yeah. You know? Like I said, sometimes it just feels great, and other times it feels harder. You know? It's certainly interesting. So now, in terms of the classic rock show, you've got some monumental sort of vocals to get through. For example, Led Zeppelin. Yeah. You've got AC/DC. So if you've got, say, for example, songs within the set list, and you've got, say, your working day ahead of you, and you think, hang on a minute, the set list is this for tonight. Would that cause you any sort of worries or concerns in terms of, say, for example, I'm not really sort of feeling top of my form today. Is there any flexibility in what you can? Could you bail out of a song and say, look, can't do that one tonight because my vocals aren't there?
and put something else into the set? How would it work?
The answer is yes to that question. We have done that. You know, if there's been times where I've just been like, look, I'm feeling really tired today. Yeah. Can we not do Dream On tonight, for example? You know, which is probably the hardest song I have to sing in the set. So we have done that, but also it's more about pacing yourself during the set vocally. Yeah. So that might mean. And again, just being totally honest, so this is the real answer rather than the showbiz answer. It's like, sometimes if you're not feeling 100%, you might just back off the backing vocals. Yes. 15%, give a little bit less effort on those because they're less important, you know, to give you just that little bit more kind of energy left when you go to sing your big number. And vocally within songs themselves, it's a real funny one. So effort with singing is effort is in being in control rather than like squeezing and forcing it out effort. So for me, effort is in really concentrating and maybe taking 10% of my volume off, which nobody would ever notice in the audience, but it just gives me that extra bit of stamina to do the last 8 bars of a really difficult song.
So you're saving yourself for the difficult parts.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just but that's constant throughout the gig, you know. And again, it's just things you learn over the years of like how to kind of balance all these things out, and it changes from day to day, from song to song, you know, from half to half, you know. It really does. It's like,
so it sounds really interesting. So for example, in tonight's like set list we've got tonight, we're in the show tonight, we're watching, we're back here for a second time, guys, because we love it that much. So I've seen the set list before, and I would imagine there's going to be 1 or 2 changes that I would see a difference in tonight. But for you personally, from a vocalist point of view, what are your go-to songs in the set that you really enjoy? What would those be?
I always love singing Led Zeppelin. So yeah, I really love doing Black Dog. It's a hard one, but I really love doing it. Yes, it is. For different reasons, and probably because before this tour was a little out of my comfort zone. Is doing the Paul Rodgers tune, Bad Company, Feel Like Making Love, because Paul Rodgers is a blues singer, and his kind of the way he chooses things melodically and his riffs and stuff are super interesting to me. It's not where I naturally sit, so I had to do quite a lot of work on that, and I enjoy trying to be a bit more free, excuse the pun, with that during that song, and do sort of a few licks and things because I'm normally quite consistent with what I choose to do. I normally I'll rehearse something, I'll do it that way, and I'll pretty much do it the same every night. But with Bad Company, I try and mix it up and do different things, because that's what he did. And I try and, every song I do, I try and sort of pull references from the originals and see how they did it vocally. And I kind of get a kick out of that, you know, and changing my voice to suit certain songs in certain ways. Right,
because obviously in the sort of, again, the musicians' world of doing, say, for example, covers of iconic tracks, there's a balance to be had between your personality coming out in the song and equally like the original recording artist. So you're saying there's you do a combination of yourself and Paul Rodgers when you're doing those kind of tracks. Is that where you sort of are with it?
Yeah, that's how I've always sort of looked at my career, to be honest. It's sort of finding where you meet those artists, because so many of the the bands and artists in this set have been huge inspirations to me. But people like Freddie or Robert Plant, you're never going to sound exactly like them, but it's about finding where you meet and doing sort of Freddie-isms, or even if it's just like a strong forearm, or the kind of the kind of Robert Plant kind of lilt he does sometimes, or and obviously the AC/DC thing. I get asked about that probably the most, because it sounds so impressive vocally.
It does. I have to say, when I've heard you doing Brian Johnson, it sounds great. It does sound great. And I think, how do you swap between, because it's such a diverse set, there's a lot of pressure on you guys to basically change your voice to suit the song of that original artist. And I don't know how you guys do it, Brian Johnson and say the Led Zeppelins and all the other stuff. brilliant. How do
Well, if we want to get geeky about it, I mean, for me as a singer, it's really about breaking it down and going, how are they making that sound? And then having, you know, the training and the knowledge from my amazing teacher, Juliet Caton, props to Juliet,
right.
about how to manipulate my own larynx into that position to create that same sound.
Yes.
And there's steps along the way to making all these sounds, and they're all slightly different, you know. Again, without going into too much detail about sort of anatomy, it's about like the position of your larynx. It might be a high larynx position or a low larynx position, depending on the song, and they make different sounds and different tones. And then how much grit you put in, and you know how clean things are. Like obviously something like Rosanna is totally different to something like Robert Plant. You know, totally different vocal setup, as I call it. So yeah, I get a kick out of that, you know. I find it fun. It's just about building the tone, you know.
Yeah. So in terms of putting time into it, again, I suppose it's like if you're learning a passage from a song as a musician, the same applies to a vocalist. There's going to be some difficulties in some songs in trying to get a technique or the feeling of that song out. So in terms of times, do you set yourself deadlines? In terms of, do you set yourself like a time scale out to learn a particular track, and then you think, right, I need to move on to the next one now, or is it continuously developing?
I guess my process before the tour starts is that I obviously get the set list sent to me. I'll just listen. You know, I'll spend probably a week just listening and just familiarising myself with the songs. My whole thing is about just knowing them well enough for them to become second nature.
Yes.
Because you don't want to be up there, even on the first gig. For me, I mean, I know a lot of musicians are not like this, but I want to be up there not thinking about it. Because if you're thinking about it, see, this is what I've said in the thing I did with Pete Thorne a while ago. For me, the technique and the learning and the knowing it actually gets rid of your own ego. Yes. Because if you're worried about, do I know the lyrics? Am I going to be able to hit this note? Am I going to be able to deliver this song? It's about you. Whereas if you know it, if I go out on that stage knowing that I know it and knowing that I can deliver it vocally and emotionally and everything else, because I know what it's about and I've studied it and I've learned it. So I've gone on a bit of a tangent here, but then it's about the audience, right? Yeah. It's about them enjoying it and them having fun. Yes. And we're just sort of, you know, we're channels of this music. Yeah. We're storytelling, you know. So that's that. So I really listen, trying to get my head around every song, every lyric. And once I've sort of listened for like a week, I'll sort of go on my iPad and I'll get all the lyrics on there, and I'll sort of make a point out of going through every song, making sure every single word is right. You know, if it's a the instead of a they, or an a instead of a or, you know, I change it all so it's totally perfect to the record. Go into real detail with it, and then I highlight it all. And then I'm quite meticulous with that stuff. Make sure it's all kind of in order, ready to go. And then if I've got guitar parts to learn, I'll start learning those. And then it's just about routining them. And I'll go on YouTube and get the karaoke track of whatever song it is, and I'll just sing them, you know. And that's when the vocal sort of placement comes in, sort of at the end. It's like, and this year I actually went for a session with my vocal coach, and we looked at a few of the different songs, and we broke them down, and I'd sing and she'd go, you know, have you tried doing this, you know, and it's like a fresh set of eyes, isn't it, really? Oh, totally. A completely different sort of angle on developing you as a singer. And sometimes it does help to have like a second opinion, doesn't it, really? Just bringing you back to I saw that edition of Pete Thorne. We sat his laptop somewhere, and I think you just came in. We were sharing a dressing room that day. And you came in, and I remember you talking about that analogy of, well, we're doing it for the audience. We need to get rid of egos and stuff, think about the audience. And he's brought that up since that time, because I think something came up on a later vlog he did. Okay. And he basically said that was brilliant what Jesse Smith came out with last week. And he reiterated that once again the following week, which I thought was really, really good. And it is a good way to look at things, it really is. So, Jesse, just a quick thing now, really, about
after the classic rock show, we've got some exciting stuff going on, haven't we? So what's happening in your life after the classic rock show?
Yeah, so it's going to be a busy year. I go straight on tour with my own solo shows after this. So I have one day off, stupidly, and then I head up to Newcastle for the first show, and that is totally different to the classic rock show. It is. It's all obviously music I've written, and these shows are going to be very small, very intimate. You know, me with a guitar and a piano, and singing my songs basically. So very different. But I'm really looking forward to it.
So you've got an album out as well at the minute, which is Songs from the Concrete Box.
That's it. Yeah, so that's out on CD. People can buy that from my website, and but the first single is out online, so people can listen to it on wherever they get their streams from, and the second single is going to be out next month as well.
Right, excellent. Oh, that sounds good. So you've got a UK tour coming up. So obviously you've just hinted on the lineup. Is it a solo act show? Is
totally
what it's saying?
Yeah,
Is that based on the live streams you did in lockdown by any chance? Did that give you a bit of a flavour for it, or?
I mean that is definitely the catalyst for this record, because obviously in lockdown I did a lot of streaming and built up a really sort of loyal core fan base of people that it was like a mutual thing, because I needed an outlet to perform and make money, and they were obviously starved of live music, and having seen me in the various shows that I've done over the years, it meant a lot to people, and people quite often on this tour have come and said to me, thank you so much for doing those. And I always feel like, it was for me as well, So I just felt really lucky to be in that kind of position, to been able to do that. So this is sort of like a live version of that. Of course, with all my own music and stuff, which is, it's really nice.
Brilliant. So what also has come along from that is you've ended up with an endorsement from Taylor Guitars.
Taylor's been really lovely to me, So... it's like everything, it's who you know, isn't it? But I was going out on tour with Earl Slick, legendary guitar player, and they sent me a guitar for that tour, and then unfortunately that tour didn't end up happening. But Taylor have been fantastic. I mean, I've always played Taylors anyway since I was 15 years old, and just loved them. And luckily they've sent me 2 guitars that I'm using on the road on this tour.
Brilliant.
So I've got one of their Builder's Edition 12 strings, which is just incredible.
Oh, nice.
So it's a kind of short body, but it's just, I've never known a 12 string that stays in tune like it does.
Right.
It just does not go out of tune. And for a small body guitar, it's such a big sound. And I use that on stuff like Space Oddity, David Bowie, and what else do I play it on? I Feel Like Making Love.
Right, well. In fact, I have seen that on stage. You just remind me of it. And like I said, the good thing about 12-string guitars, it's almost like having a mini orchestra. Instruments. It's really such a full tone, isn't it?
They're chiming and it's just something different. But again, it's like when it's not there, that's what I love about the show. It's about the detail, So if there's a 12-string, it's like, let's put a 12-string on it, So I love that. And then the other acoustic, I play a lot of acoustic on this show this year, and it's the 414 CE, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful sounding guitar. I've played quite a bit of guitar on this tour. I'm really enjoying it, actually, because
we've sort of noticed you've had a few sort of instruments in a rack at the back.
You
pop up from time to time with electric guitar. So what's your guitar lineup? So you've obviously got the acoustics there, the Taylors. You've got a couple of Gibsons, I think.
I've got Les Paul, which is a 1980 Deluxe that I picked up in Finland a couple of years ago, and my Fender Telecaster that I bought new in 2006 or something. And then I have 3 Taylors on this tour, so so 5 altogether. So one's in D standard, so it's all tuned down for one song. That's my lineup. It's really nice. I always feel like a bit of a fraud playing guitar because I'm a singer. I'm a singer that plays guitar. So.
But why not?
I love it. I've always, it's like everything, isn't it? Every guitarist wants to be a singer, and every singer wants to be a guitarist. But I'm really enjoying playing every night on this tour. I think it's about half the gig I play on, probably maybe 2/3. So it's really nice to be able to.
It's interesting for the audience as well. I mean, because obviously we're talking about it's an audience-fueled show. Without the audience, there wouldn't be a classic rock show.
Of course.
But when they see you sort of stepping away from vocals and stepping up with a Les Paul, That's fantastic. Tim Brown mentioned in a previous edition of Gigs and Guitars that I didn't know this. He's also a wannabe rock guitarist.
Right.
You know, and if he got up to the front, wow, you know, everybody could be on guitar, you know.
Yeah,
so,
I guess those little changes make it interesting visually and stuff, but it's not. We're not doing it for the sake of it either. You know, we're doing it because musically we think it adds something. You know, so especially the acoustic stuff. You know, there's, you know, and some things just feel better if, you know, because it's how they did it, you know.
Yeah.
So like Bowie did Space Oddity live with a 12-string guitar. So if the singer's singing and playing, it makes you sing a certain way, and it makes you play a certain way, you know. And that's, you know, that's what I am. I'm a singer-songwriter, so I love you know, trying to replicate that, you know. So I feel very comfortable playing acoustic.
So here's a little bit of a thought just popped up in my mind. A set list for next year's Classic Rock Show.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking a nice 12-string song, perhaps Wanted Dead or Alive Bon Jovi.
Okay.
But there's other good 12-string stuff out there besides that.
There's
Wish
quite
You
a
Were
few.
Here's another one.
Wish You Were Here.
You know,
We've done More Than a Feeling before as well. We did. Played the 12-string on that. Yeah, that's not my department. Enough to speak to James about that.
That's it. Fantastic. Right, okay, Jesse. Listen, well, thank you ever so much for talking to us today. You've got sound check coming up very, very shortly, and you'll need to sort of get warmed up and everything. But cheers, guys. Jesse Smith is going on tour very, very soon. Check out his CD. He's all over Instagram and Facebook and everything, so brilliant. Thank you, Jesse.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. There we go. Cheers, guys. It's a wrap. If you've enjoyed this edition of Gigs and Guitars, be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss a thing. Next time, we will be talking to Jess Harwood about her involvement in the Classic Rock Show. See you then.